Hello, Lenawee County. This week I sat down with Todd Flood, and as the criminal trial against Dale Warner unfolds, attorney Todd Flood is also pursuing a parallel wrongful death lawsuit in civil court. In this interview, Flood explains the legal strategy behind filing that case, how it connects to the earlier declaration of death, and what it could mean for D. Warner's children as they seek accountability and closure. For the lawsuit that you have going on, would you be able to walk me through the legal reasoning behind filing the wrongful death lawsuit in civil court while the current case against Dale is still underway?
So we came first. We filed a declaration of death case. If you read that opinion, it's kind of the template of the criminal case that's going on. So we had to prove by clear and convincing evidence in probate court that Dee was in fact dead. If you look at the interview that Dale gave in the beginning, he said she might be in Jamaica having, margaritas someplace, right? So I first had to establish that she was dead. Then once she was declared dead, I filed my lawsuit. It was subsequent to that the prosecutor came in and filed their criminal prosecution. So we were the first in line showing that, in fact, she was dead. The judge, in our case, in fact, said, at one point in time, no other person other than Dale. Regardless of all of that, we do that case. We were in the process of doing a wrongful death case against Dale. Subsequent to that, the prosecutor's office comes in, files their criminal prosecution. Once they do that, our judge stays the civil proceeding. Does that make sense?
It does.
Yeah. The cadence of how things worked.
Yeah. So and the way you lay it out is you guys set all this in the motion to be able to actually have her declared dead, which is actually what paved the way for the current trial. Is that a good summation, at least in the simplification of it?
It was definitely a part and parcel of how things worked forward and advanced.
Gotcha. And so what are the key legal elements in this that you have to prove for the wrongful death case? How do you plan to address that in court?
Well, I think it's res ipsa. It kind of speaks for itself, right? So we have to show by, under the wrongful death statute that Dale was the cause of D. Warner's death. And I think we have that pretty much, factually tied up. Obviously, we could file what is called a motion for summary disposition based on liability and just deal with damages. I think that's where we're at. So I have to show, that he was the cause under the wrongful death statute.
Yeah. In your view, what impact does the outcome of the criminal case have on that civil lawsuit, both legally and in terms of the public reception of it?
So if he's convicted, you may remember in just reverse order, O.J. Simpson was found not guilty, but was found, by a preponderance of the evidence guilty in his civil case, right? So if Dale is found guilty beyond a reasonable doubt, that's a much higher standard that I have to prove, or that they have to prove. If he's found guilty of the crime, I again will only have to realistically argue about damages and collectability. There's three things to a civil lawsuit. There's liability, right? There's injury, and there's collectability. Well, I think we can establish liability. We can show, because we pretty much have that. We can show that obviously there's a wrongful death, right? So that's the injury. Now we have to deal with collectability. Where did he hide all the money? Where did the money go? And that's what belongs to the children. That belongs to his Dee's offspring, right? It should not go to the benefit of Dale.
No, I agree with that 100%. On having been sitting in the courtroom this entire week, I'm reserving as much as I can because I don't want to put my opinions out. But it's been difficult. I could tell by watching them testify that this is something that they would prefer to have moved on from, it seems.
They need closure.
Yeah,
They need closure. They need,
closure. Thank you. That's the
yeah,
word I was trying to get to.
yeah,
Yes, they want closure, it seems, from my perception on
yeah,
this,
yeah.
and that's understandable given
Right.
everything that's going on. What challenges or defenses do you anticipate from any type of defense from Dale's team?
There's only two defenses in criminal law,
Mhm.
right? If you look all throughout the world, what are those defenses? Yes, I did it, but I had an excuse. I call that yes, but I was insane. Yes, but I acted in self-defense. Yes, but I was defending someone else. Yes, but that's one defense. The other defense is you got the wrong guy. I didn't do it. So what are Dale's options? What are Dale's options in all of the criminal world? What are his options in this case? He has to be able to say and point, it was someone else. It wasn't me, right? And they're building such a strong and powerful circumstantial evidence that, it's a Picasso. When you look at all of the pieces of the puzzle put together, there is a pretty strong uh, uh, puzzle put together that he was the person. And that's just based on the testimony that's coming forward.
Oh,
Again, I think if you just read the court's order and the order and opinion in the declaration of death case, it's kind of that outline that just went through everything, right?
yeah.
And now they're redoing it only with more in the criminal case. I mean, the fact that a drone, picks up Dale carrying the fertilizer tank or moving the fertilizer tank that she was in is pretty
Oh,
strong evidence, right?
yes.
There's all sorts of things that are going to come into play that we didn't have in the civil case in the declaration of death that are here now. So I think ultimately it's they're putting together a Picasso of evidence to show that he was the one, because he can't use the first defense. Yes, I did it, but so his only defense is going to be, you got the wrong guy. I didn't do it. And now they're pretty much putting all the pieces of evidence together to show that he did.
Yeah. No, and like I said, covering this live in the courtroom, you have a sense of what's going on beforehand, because like you said, because of the declaration of death cases and the hearings from that and everything else that's been going on around it. But then as you're watching the prosecution lay out the actual evidence chain, that the Picasso, I find to be a very good analogy for this, because it is like they're taking the pieces that we were all trying to put together and going, oh, this is how they fit right
Right.
there.
Right.
So, looking at the situation, looking at what's coming forward for you, and everything that's going around to try and help these kids move on, what is something that you would like to say, or do you have anything that's on your mind now that maybe I haven't covered that you would like to get out there?
Actually, I don't think there is anything. I mean, this is a hopefully some mercy. There's no justice here. We can't turn back the hands of time, right? I wish we could, but we can't. Dee wanted to divorce Dale. She was going there to say it was over. And this is about greed. This is why, what happened, why it happened, the motivations of why it happened. And I think that the sad part is knowing this family and knowing Dee. Dee was the matriarch. She was the one that was the glue to this family. She brought the events together. If you look at the photographs of the holidays and the Thanksgivings and the Christmases, she was the glue to this family. And I think it's cathartic to some extent to get this chapter over so people can mourn, people can grieve. Believe me, it tears off scabs, because some things all of a sudden heals a little bit, but then when this comes out, it pulls that scab off. And I think ultimately, to heal, hopefully, they can get through this portion of it and get some closure with this part of the journey. And my prayers and hopes and are just with the family, and that they can find that.
Mine are as well. I'm hoping they're able to get the closure and the mercy, as you described, that they
Yeah.
need.
Yeah.
Thank you again, Mr. Flood, for sitting down
Thank
with me,
you.
and we
Thank
can
you.
go ahead
Be
and wrap
well.
up this portion. Thank you.
Yeah.